Hi, Music Express readers from all over the world. Today I'm at DreamWorks Studio in Universal City, California. This is the place where Steven Spielberg made all those fantastic movies like E.T. and Jaws and Jurassic Park. It's where movies like Shrek and Madagascar and How to Train Your Dragon were made. Steven Spielberg is a really good friend of another man named John Williams. John Williams wrote all the music for those fantastic movies like Jaws and Indiana Jones and Harry Potter. And today we're going into the studios here and we're going to have a visit with Maestro John Williams. Come on. Hey, Music Express moviegoers. Have you ever heard the music from such movies as Hook and Jurassic Park and Superman and Harry Potter? Let me add a few more to that list. Indiana Jones and Star Wars. How about the NBC Nightly News theme song or maybe even the theme song from the Olympics? If you've ever heard any of that music, you are going to be as excited as I am today to be sitting next to the maestro who wrote all of that wonderful music for those movies and TV shows. This is the very famous and successful Maestro John Williams.
Oh, John.
How was that for an introduction?
Oh, that's a wonderful introduction.
I practiced it for about a week and I put on my best suit.
Well, it was just grand. Thank you very much. And I'm so happy to be with you, John, and to speak to our viewers and have a little chat with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, well, you know, the Music Express readers know a lot about you already. And they've listened to your music and sung your songs. And I'm just so delighted that they get to actually see you in person and hear you about your amazing career. So I put together a bunch of questions. And I'm just going to get right at them because they don't need to hear me talk. We want to hear from you. For instance, you were born and raised in New York City and moved to Los Angeles at a very early age. What are your earliest memories of making music at home or in school?
At home, there was always music in the house because my father was a professional musician, and he played the drums and percussion in radio orchestras in the 1930s and 40s, way back then. And we had a piano in the living room on which I practiced every day because he insisted that I have piano lessons.
We liked that.
Which was great. But we also had a basement in our house where there was another piano, a little older piano, which is where my brother, who played the drums, or the neighborhood kids who played the clarinet and the trumpet would come. We wouldn't go to the living room. My mother might not appreciate it. We had our little jam sessions, so to speak, in the basement of the house. One of the most profound experiences that I had as a child was playing the piano, and my little neighbor friend had a trumpet, and to discover when he played the trumpet, some of you may know that a trumpet, well, there are many keys, but usually the key of B flat. So to play my piano music with me, I had to write the note, get a sheet of music paper, and write for the trumpet the notes one step higher so that I could play along with him. And when that happened, that seemed like a miracle to me, that actually something I'd put down with my hand, even though it wasn't my own music, it made it possible for us to play together.
Amazing.
And the fun of that and the sense of discovery that one could adjust, manipulate, arrange music, and then have the joy of doing it with someone else was, I think, one of the most profound experiences I had as a young person studying music. And a series of moments where I discovered, I'll use the word again, the joy of making music together.
That's amazing. That's what we do at Music Express all the time. It's all about collaboration.
Yes.
And also writing it down, your little basement band that you had instead of a garage band, and writing it down. And then a week later, you wouldn't even have to be in the room. Somebody else could play your music. I mean, that's the real language of music.
And also the feeling as a composer later on in life and so on, that I appreciate our orchestras so much and our players so much, because I can write all the music down and write a full score and so on, but until they play it, it isn't brought to life.
So then you made that transition from being a pianist to being a composer. Did it happen that young, or did the whole idea of being a composer come later?
I didn't have an idea in my mind until well into my teenage years that one could be a composer professionally. I didn't have that idea. by the time I was in high school, I was able to, as we'd say, orchestrate, to arrange music for orchestra. We had a student orchestra. The reason for that was because my father had books on theory and orchestration in the house that I used to love to read and try to understand, and he would explain to me a little bit. Later on, teachers did also.
But then how did you make that transition from composing, say, for your school orchestra or for live performance of any orchestra to writing for film? And how is that different?
Well, it's very different. The first work that I did in the Hollywood film studios was as a pianist. In the old Columbia studios, where they had a contract orchestra, there was an opening position for piano, which I auditioned for, and I was hired by the then music director, Morris Stoloff, who the young people will not remember. So that meant that every day, Monday through Friday, 4 or 5 days a week, I sat in the orchestra at Columbia Studios playing under Mr. Stoloff's direction and watching him underscore films about westerns or love stories or scary films or comedies or whatever, and had a first-hand view as an orchestra member of how this process of creating and fitting music to film went. And 2 or 3 years into my time in the orchestra there, the same gentleman said, would you prepare the music for one scene for next week's recording? So I did one scene for next week's recording, and apparently it worked out well enough that he said, in 2 weeks, would you do 2 scenes for us? We're a little short this week, maybe 3 a month later. So it was a series of steps, or increments, if you like to say. I progressed from the piano bench of sitting in the orchestra and playing the piano to a young man sitting not far from the music library writing the music for next Tuesday's recording.
Yeah, I think when I think of John Williams' music, I think of you're the king of coming up with themes for different characters in movies. I mean, we can close our eyes and imagine Darth Vader or the wonderful characters from Harry Potter, for instance, you know, Hedwig and Harry himself and all that. How do you kind of come up with those themes and how do you use that in a movie musical sense?
Well, the themes in these movies, I think for me at least, are the most difficult things to write. But I will look at a film like Star Wars, for example, and there'll be a character. There is Darth Vader. We've never seen him before with that helmet that's on there. And he's terrifying. And I try to analyze what this character is. This is somebody who's imperious, meaning great authority and great power, and also frightening in many ways. And also has a military bearing about him.
Sort of like my music teacher.
Something like that. So those qualities maybe are starting points for me to develop musical phrases that would fit this kind of a character. So I think that the trick is to think about the person we're writing for, try to get inside that person to the qualities and characteristics that he or she shows us, and try to describe that musically. And that's probably for me the biggest challenge and the most difficult thing to get just right.
And they want
for
you to
each
do it
film
in 8 notes or so, or in short segments like that.
When we're writing music for film or preparing any part of the film, we need to think that probably the audience is going to see and hear this once. They will maybe see it repeatedly, and that's what people usually do. But unless the first impression is a good impression, I think the assumption that we're going to see and hear it once is a fair one. Also, the complication with music is that, unlike a concert where there's only music that we hear, in the film we hear the music, we hear the sound of the spaceship, we hear the sound of the guns, the sound of the dialogue. So we have to understand that the music is part of a whole, that if we try, as a composer, if I try to take the whole of everyone's attention the way I would in a concert hall, it won't succeed. We have to find our place in the hierarchy or in the level of where the dialogue, the words go, the sound effects, the explosions and the sword sounds go, and where the music goes. And that's got to be a wedded unity, one thing that is the object of how we try to marry the music to the film.
It is a unique art form.
And if we get it right, you may not even notice that the music is there. Right. But if you take it away, the whole spirit of the movie seems limp.
Yeah.
You know, we need the energy and the drive and the tempo that can...
Music makes the difference. There's a tour out now that's doing your music from Star Wars. And it brings in a great big orchestra, right? And we haul in tons of children, and they all listen to the music from Star Wars with simply a symphony orchestra. Is that right? And it stands alone.
Well, when we can take the music out of a film and play it on its own, it's really a plus. It's an extra present, really, to say, because the first thing we have to do is fit the film, service the film. And then if you can take all these other sounds I talked about, the words and the sound effects out, and the music still has its own legs, that's a wonderful benefit, a wonderful blessing, and an extra gift.
I don't have time to list all of your awards, but there's been a lot of them. I mean, 5 Academy Awards, 45 Oscar nominations, the most of any living person, 7 British Academy Awards, 21 Grammys, 4 Golden Globes, 4 Emmys, numerous gold and platinum records. I probably missed a whole bunch. I know you were at the White House a couple of weeks ago and got a wonderful award from the president. Is there any one of them that, or one or two that stand out as just profound accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Well, of course, John, I must say I'm very proud of all of them. And when you list them all, I think it can't be me. I'm much too young for having done all that. But they all are wonderful things to receive and marvelous recognition. I don't know if I can single out any one of them. And people often ask me, what is my favorite score of all the scores that I've written?
That was my next question.
Oh, was it? Okay.
So you've been reading my script.
Well, that's also a hard question, John. But I think for me, the music for E.T., the combination of that film with that particular score, I think in its entirety, for me personally, I think is the one that we got, that came closest to being ideally right in every scene.
I know you're planning on writing for a long, long time to come, and we all hope that you are. Is there anything that you've got in the works right now that, that you could tell us about, so we have the inside scoop?
Well, one of the things I am most proud of in my working life is my association with Steven Spielberg, who a lot of you listening and watching this will remember from so many famous films he's done. Steven Spielberg and I have worked together for 37 years. It's hard to believe that we were both 10 years old when we started.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
It's amazing.
And Steven Spielberg has a lot of wonderful projects, which I really won't name because they're in the works of being developed, in the process of being developed, but I expect to be working with Steven still a good long time. One of my great good fortunes is that work for me is fun, and it's what I do every day. I write something every day, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, just the habit, the practice of truly 6.5 days a week, something goes on paper.
I always tell young people that are starting up writing to if they're writing script or music, slop it down. Just get it down, day. And then you can always go back and work on it some more. You know, we have lots of kids that are going to watch this, young people who are very interested in music, maybe just as a pastime or as a career. Do you have any words of encouragement or advice to any of them that might be considering music as a career?
Well, I hope they will consider it. You know what I would say to young people is really what I say to myself. I mean, if you can find the joy in music, and first of all, life is a great gift. Life itself is just that we're here and we think and we can share things and see what's beautiful, hear what's beautiful. Music first among all of the sounds, we think. Some of us musicians do. But find the joy in music, find the joy in life, find the joy in each other, find the joy in work. And life becomes really very, very beautiful that way. I think go out and find the joy.
It's a wonderful piece of advice, and we sure appreciate you sharing your very valuable time with all of us here at Music Express, and for all that you've given to the world in the world of music that we see on films, on stage. Maestro John Williams, has been a real honor.
Thank you very much, John.
Live from DreamWorks Studios, this is John Jacobson for Music Express.